Howdy folks, I'm Meet the Name, and today I bring you a video that isn't my usual forte. I guess what I should do is ask a question. What cartoons did you grow up with? For me, I grew up with the likes of SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, Code Lyoko, Teenage Robot, Megas XLR, and many, many more. What was interesting is that, from what I could tell, while the 2000s did have its share of cartoons that were made to sell toys based off of existing properties, it wasn't anywhere near what the 80s and 90s had. I'd probably call that time period the Wild West in terms of cartoons being based on existing properties, because everything and anything was getting shows. You had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Beetlejuice, Rubik, The Amazing Cube, He-Man, Ghostbusters, and wait, go back. There's a freaking Rubik's Cube cartoon? I'm getting sidetracked here. The point is, there were a lot of cartoons, and many of them were made for selling toys to kids. What was especially interesting was that there were some IPs that you wouldn't expect to get cartoons, mainly because they were, violent, R-rated, full of blood and adult themes, and yet, some folks out there got the wacky idea to market these properties to children, probably so that they could sell toys. So today, I thought I'd highlight 5 cartoons that were made in this lawless time that were based on R-rated properties. Let's start with the one that's really surprising. Number 1. Rambo, The Force of Freedom. First up, we got an interesting little show here titled Rambo, The Force of Freedom. According to Wikipedia, the plot is as follows. On Colonel Trotman's request, John Rambo leads a special unit called the Force of Freedom all over the globe with their goal against the paramilitary terrorist organization Savage, led by the nefarious General Warhawk. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds an awful lot like a G.I. Joe ripoff, and that's because it was. It's got your spunky unit of soldiers, it's got American iconography, and it even has an evil Cobra stand-in. And let's not forget the most important part, it had action figures to sell you on. The folks behind the cartoon, Ruby Spears Enterprises, originally released the show as a 5-part miniseries that premiered April 14th, 1986. But then I guess the show was either profitable enough or cheap enough to get an additional 60 episodes. The main show was then released between September 15th through to December 26th, 1986. And so, the first ever cartoon that was based on an R-rated film was made. And Coleco, the toy manufacturer that spent $15 million making the show, released their own line of action figures to cash in on the action. This then leads us to our next cartoon. Number 2. RoboCop. Boy howdy, if folks thought Rambo was outrageous, wait till you see what they did with RoboCop. The plot follows similar beats to the film, in that a police officer named Alex Murphy is mortally wounded by a group of ne'er-do-wells and is then rebuilt as the eponymous RoboCop. The show then takes a couple of liberties from the film, with Detroit looking more technologically advanced and everyone wielding laser weaponry instead of actual guns with bullets. And no, RoboCop doesn't shoot anyone in the dick. RoboCop premiered October 1st, 1988, and ran until December 18th, 1988. The show was produced by Orion Pictures Productions and Marvel Productions. What's interesting is that, unlike most cartoons in their first season, RoboCop only had 12 episodes. Now you might be wondering, why is that? And to put it simply, the word is, it was because Marvel Productions took the money that would have been used on the last episode and put it towards funding a pilot for a proposed X-Men series instead. And yes, RoboCop did have toys aimed towards kids, although I'm not sure if they were spawned from the cartoons or if they already existed. And it should be noted that unlike some of the other shows I've listed, RoboCop actually had 2 different series. The second was known as RoboCop Alpha Commando. I won't get into it now, but boy howdy, that sure is interesting. Number 3. Toxic Crusaders. Okay, who here is familiar with the Toxic Avenger? For those who don't know, it was a superhero parody film from 1984 that was known for being extremely crude and horribly violent. Like, we're talking really violent. There's a scene that happens right at the beginning of the film that I can't even describe here. Well, anyway, some genius out there thought that it would be the perfect property to turn into a Saturday morning children's cartoon called The Toxic Crusaders. And you know what? If you didn't know about the original films, you would just write this off as a TMNT knockoff, or better yet, a Captain Planet ripoff, seeing as to how it dealt with themes such as environmentalism. The Toxic Crusaders premiered January 21st, 1991, and ran until May 20th of that same year. It would have a total of 13 episodes. The show was produced by Murakami Wolf Swanson, Sachs Family Entertainment, and of course, Trauma Entertainment. What's surprising is, despite the small amount of episodes, there's a decent amount of memorabilia that was made for this show. We're talking Marvel and Fleetway comics, Halloween costumes, trading cards, and of course, action figures. These figures were produced by Playmates Toys, the same folks who would bring us TMNT figures. What's also interesting is, the Toxic Crusaders also had video games released for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Game Boy, and Sega Genesis. There was apparently going to be an SNES game released as well, but it was cancelled for some reason. And surprisingly, we have a new Toxic Crusaders game coming out this year, and new toys are currently being made for man-children such as myself. The show even got a recent Blu-ray re-release. Again, for such a short-lived show, it's surprising to see that it just won't die. That's some serious dedication. Number 4. Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Tales from the Crypt Keeper was an animated children's horror series. It was based on the show Tales from the Crypt, which in turn was based on the old EC comic series of the same name. The series stars that dastardly old Crypt Keeper, but this time with a splash of child-friendly paint. Each episode usually ended with a life lesson for kids to learn, which is really sweet. What's unique about this show is that, unlike many of its contemporaries that I have already listed, this show actually made it to 3 seasons. What happened was, the show premiered in September of 1993 and ran until December 10th, 1994 for 2 seasons. The show would lay dormant for a couple of years before rising from the grave as new Tales from the Crypt Keeper. As expected, this show also had a toy line. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any cheesy commercials for us to look at. But with that said, this 39-episode cartoon is fun and a bit educational if you want to introduce your kids to horror. You can't get much better than this, besides maybe Goosebumps. Number 5. Mortal Kombat: Defenders of the Realm. Finally, we have our last show, which is Mortal Kombat: Defenders of the Realm. If you watched my Mortal Kombat 1995 review, you might have seen that I snuck the intro for the show in at the very end. Personally, I almost didn't include Defenders of the Realm on this list, but hey, Mortal Kombat did have a series of action figures in the 90s, so I figured we might as well talk about it. Anyways, this show was seen as an alternate sequel to the 1995 film and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. The show ran for 13 episodes from September 21st, 1996 to December 14th, 1996. The show was produced by Threshold Entertainment, USA Studios, and New Line Television. Defenders of the Realm would receive poor ratings, and viewers generally didn't care for it, leading to the show being cancelled after only 1 season. Even now, the show is infamous among fans of Mortal Kombat, ranking it among some of the worst video game adaptations out there. Something interesting that people like to point out, however, is that the evil sorcerer Quan Chi made his first appearance on this show, and he would go on to become a very prominent antagonist in future Mortal Kombat games. Honestly, now that I think about it, it's kinda weird to think that this character from a children's cartoon is being horribly eviscerated in video games now. Kinda weird how life works out, huh? So overall, those are 5 children's cartoons based on things not for kids. From the derivative to the creative. It's interesting to see how even the most violent of media can have its rough edges sanded off and sanitized for the consumption of younger audiences. All in the name of selling cheap plastic toys. Toys that are worth a hefty sum these days. Check your attics, folks. There may be gold up there. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I decided to experiment a bit again with another video format. This time the ever so popular list. I hope it was entertaining and informative for folks. I'll be returning to normal reviews after this video, I swear. I just needed to get this off of my mind first. So, what did you think of these cartoons? Did you see them as a kid? Did you buy the toys? What do you think of it all? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you liked this video, please feel free to press the like button. And if you really like this video and this channel, please subscribe. It really does help me out. With all that said, I hope you all have a wonderful day.
If you think superheroes like me can fight all your battles for you, think again. Voting for your local, state, and federal representative lets you choose who's on your side in all the issues we face today. The little ones to the really big ones too. But before you can vote, you need to register, so do it now. For registration forms or information on how to register, visit your local participating video store. Have a voice in your future. Register. And vote. And tell them Spider-Man sent you.